So last week I announced this new battery project that I've got going on that I've been working on for quite a while, and it was very well received. I was very thankful for you guys, all the comments, all the support, all the help. First of all, I wanted to add a little bit to that before we get into the first part of this video series. But I'm not looking to reinvent the wheel. Whatever I bring to market is not going to be something that no one's ever seen before. I'm not an inventor, and I'm not making these batteries myself. They're obviously going to be manufactured in China. I have, just so that you guys know, and I'll probably disclose this at some point down the line, but I did solicit numerous quotes from American suppliers. There's not very many of them, but there are a few companies that do make these types of products in the United States. They are prohibitively expensive. Like, we're talking my cost for what I'm talking about bringing to market, just my cost, not making any money and selling it to you guys, but my cost would have been almost $1,000 for a 100 amp hour 12 volt battery. Just not going to work. So having said that, the other thing I wanted to add to the mix that we didn't really talk about last time was I'm going to be fully transparent in this process to the fullest extent that I can. Obviously, I'm not going to share confidential information about my company or accounting information, cost information, stuff like that. But I am going to share with you who the supplier is, that kind of thing. And it's a supplier that has already imported batteries to the United States, so there are other companies using this supplier. So you'll easily be able to find some of these competitors. I'm okay with that because these aren't super well-known companies, and I'm okay with some competition. So, like I said, I can't bring something in that no one's ever seen before, and so we have to live within the realm of possible here for at least for now. All right, so to start this video off, this first part, I just want to play catch up. I want to catch you up on what my thinking is, what I've been doing for the last year or so, and how I've gotten to this point. So, and I got overwhelming feedback last time that you guys didn't like the pacing back and forth. So we're sitting down. Hopefully, you're going to be staring at my mug the whole time, and so if that's also not acceptable and we want to think of some other format for this, let me know in the comments. But anyway, I just wanted to catch you guys up on where I'm at. So for about a year, I've been looking at various suppliers, not full-time every day, constantly searching, but in the back burner, I've been looking for different suppliers, Chinese manufacturers primarily, but also American manufacturers that could bring a product, that I could bring a product to market through. And so I finally was able to kind of narrow it down more recently to a few, and then obviously ordered a sample, as you see here, over my shoulder. Also during that time, I spent a ton of time thinking about specs for my first product, and I'm going to focus on one product to start off with. It's going to be the hottest selling SKU that I've got, the one that sells the most popular size, and that's going to be 12 volt 100 amp hour. It's popular in the boating industry. It's popular with solar and off-gridders. It's RVers. It's just a really good size. So I'm going to bring one SKU basically into the U.S. to start with, and then we'll branch out and create a catalog from there. But I spent a lot of time thinking about specifications, what I wanted, what was already on the market, what was, and I'm very happy, like I said, with MillerTech. I already have that. They have a basic battery. It's got a little touch meter on top, which is a nice touch, but other than that, it's a very basic battery. There's no features. There's no Bluetooth. There's no heaters. There's no anything. They just barely got to the point where they're doing low temperature charging protection, which you guys have been asking for a long time. So I've already got kind of a basic battery. I wanted to get something that was a little bit, had some specs and some features that were above that. So, but I don't want to top out the market either. I don't want this to be super expensive. Somewhere in between. The goal is an exceptional value. I want to keep the price very reasonable and have that price to performance, price to features, price to that value ratio. I want it to be very high. So I want you guys to get the most bang for your buck. And I'm okay with making a little bit less profits to be able to get there, because part of this is just I want to give a really solid product to people. It's not all about making money. I also wanted to, in selecting a supplier, I knew, this battery, I knew I wanted to find something that had undergone rigorous testing. So it actually was kind of a good thing that this battery can already be found in the United States, because I could go back and look at what customers had already thought of that. So I was able to get a little bit of a quality check there, in addition to the sample here that I'm going to be testing and we're going to be looking at. But I was able to see real customers over the last couple of years, what they thought of this particular battery and this supplier. But also this supplier, and I haven't fully 100% decided on this supplier, but they're the front runner at this point. This particular supplier, they provide all these spreadsheets and all this documentation, all these quality control sheets and all this stuff to show the rigorous testing that these batteries go through. And that's what I want. I don't want something that someone has just copied or slapped together and claimed that they're grade A or whatever and shipped it out the door. I want to know that these things have gone through some testing. And to go along with the 100 amp hour selection, importing batteries is a big risk. It's a big commitment. And so I don't want to start off with a shotgun approach with a bunch of different batteries. I want to stick to one. I want to find one that's really good, and then we can branch out from there. And if I have to go to a different supplier to get a different size or a different feature or something, I'll do that. But they're going to go through the same process of selection and the same standards that I'm applying to this one. So having said that, the first size obviously will be 12 volt 100 amp hour lithium iron phosphate. I don't really care whether it's cylindrical or prismatic. This one in particular is prismatic. There's very, very minor pros and cons to each. Heat dissipation, a couple things like that. Other than that, nobody cares. They perform the same way, basically. But I did want to find something that had certain specs. So for one, it needed to have 100 amp continuous discharge. That was a mandatory specification. I was able to find some people that were selling some that would only discharge 50 amps continuous. That's not good enough. That's not a high performing battery. I also wanted 300 amps peak discharge for at least a few seconds, so that you can spin up a compressor motor, an inductive load, something like that. So that was important to me. I don't want the BMS to cut off at 150 amps or something like that. I wanted to give a little bit of room for starting up something. Obviously, I've gotten a lot of comments, and it's become basically minimum standard to have low temperature charging protection, thanks to Will Prowse and other people. So that it is what it is. I don't think it's a super critical feature myself, and Miller Tech has filled single digits of warranty claims. In fact, only one that I know of a battery that has failed due to charging below a certain temperature. And they send these batteries out to the Amish country, where in the Midwest, where it gets pretty cold. So I don't think that's mission critical, but a lot of you do. So, and that's the purpose of these videos, is if you guys have if I get a lot of feedback that's there is a feature or a spec or a standard that is critically important to a lot of people, even if I don't share that opinion, then we'll do it. And so this is a collaborative process with you guys. That's why your comments and your feedback is so critical to this. Another thing that I wanted, and I know that it's kind of a want and not a need, but I wanted to have Bluetooth capability in this battery. There's a lot of RVers and people who, have these in battery boxes or battery banks inside of a cabinet or something, that where going and touching a meter to check the status of the battery is not really practical. And forcing people to use some sort of a third party like a Victron or something, some sort of logger or monitor, isn't really what I want to do either. I want to have that as a built-in feature. So Bluetooth was a requirement in this process. The next parameter was COM ports. RS-485, RS-232. I wanted to have some sort of communication for people who use Arduinos and other kind of DIY stuff. I don't personally know a whole lot about that. I'm not going to pretend like I'm an expert, but I wanted to have that feature for people who did, so that they could play with that, because it's a very rare feature, and that's one of the things I wanted to set myself apart in the market, was with communications, Bluetooth and COM port capabilities. Another want, but the more I think about it, the more I like the feature, is an internal heater. So going along with the low temperature charging protection, the ability to have a heater in it where you don't even have to worry about that, where the battery itself can provide a little bit of heat so that it can withstand lower temperatures. That means I can sell them to places that competitors can't. And it's really not a super expensive feature. So I was able to find this guy that had that without breaking the bank, and I think I can still bring something to market that's a reasonable price. So again, just more value for the battery. Another another feature that I want that MillerTech doesn't really, well, they do have it now in their latest version, but in the past they didn't have, and some other companies don't have, was a serviceable case where it's got screws where you can open the case and take a look inside, do some cell balancing or whatever you want to do if that's your thing, and put it back together. Now, obviously, that will ruin any sort of IP67 or whatever rating, because they're not going to be sealed against moisture and dust and all that stuff. But I feel like that's important for many people. Certainly for the tester, I need to be able to open this thing and take a look inside, see the build quality, all that. But also for the battery that goes to market, I want it to be user serviceable. So if someone sells a battery, the warranty I'm going to provide is not going to be transferable to another owner. It's just impossible to track it. It's a mess. So if someone sells a battery or it changes hands or whatever, I want people, there to be a method of opening the battery without destroying it so that you can service it and repair it. And last but not least, certainly not least, this was a big criteria for me, was I wanted something that would go at least 2,500 cycles on 100% depth of discharge. I know there are companies out there that have 3,000 cycles. Some of the U.S. suppliers that were sending me bids, they have 3,000 cycles at 100% depth of discharge. That's great. I know Battleborn has 3,000. That one's a little bit of a game that they play with the BMS. Totally valid. It's okay. That's fine. And they kind of over build and under promise kind of a thing. But I wanted this to be straight up, no games. This is going to be at least 2,500 cycles. And so that was one of the reasons I chose this guy, was because of that. Now, MillerTech is 2,000 cycles at 100% depth of discharge. There's nothing wrong with that. That's still going to last you years and years and years and years and years. But again, I wanted to bring higher value to the market. So in the interest of catching you up, obviously I narrowed the supplier list down to a couple. Ordered this one because this is the front runner. If I'm okay with this battery, I'm not even going to order a second one. I'm just going to start importing them. It's expensive to order these samples. They only ship airmail, obviously, and you have to pay for the samples. So if I don't have to order a whole bunch of samples, if I'm perfectly happy with this, then there's really no reason to order any more. So where do we go from here? Part 2 and 3 or whatever, the near future, we're going to be testing the battery, obviously. I'm going to open it up, take a look inside. We're going to put it through some testing, verify capacity, verify some of the discharge capabilities of the battery. I'm also going to be finalizing a name for this product. I have a couple ideas that are kind of kicking around in my mind, but I'm going to finalize that. I will solicit feedback from you guys on that as well. I'm not looking for new ideas of names, but I'll put together a list of some finalists maybe and kind of get some feedback on that. I haven't 100% decided on that. I may just pick one, but I'll try to collaborate with you guys on that one. And then I have an idea. I'm not going to put this on Kickstarter. I'm not going to formally go through a process like that, but I have an idea on how to do something similar, how to bring something like this to market without the minimum order quantity for you guys' information is 50 units, and that's a lot. That's and then with all the taxes and duty fees and 6 weeks on the water from China, it's a lot. So briefly, my idea is to airmail low quantities of these in. Obviously, that's a higher cost, but what I'm going to do is kind of a Kickstarter type deal where I offer a discounted price to some initial buyers, sell those. If they sell well and in a reasonable time frame and things seem like they're going well, I'll order another order, a little bit larger quantity, that kind of thing, to help bridge the gap to that 50 quantity, which, again, that's a big commitment. We're talking $20,000+. I want to make sure that that these are something that are going to sell before I take it to that level. But we will get to that level. And I appreciate all of your guys' feedback, all of the support, all of the comments. Definitely all of you that have reached out with offers to help test or offers to help in any way. Definitely appreciate that. If you feel like you are qualified and have the equipment and the experience to do battery testing and teardown, I'm not going to send you a battery to fully tear down and destroy and cut it apart and all that. But if you want to take it apart, open the case, take a look inside, give your evaluation of build quality and all that, and then put it through some serious testing with some more advanced equipment that I don't have, let me know in the comments or send me an email. Again, my email is ldsreliance@gmail.com. Until next time, thanks guys. Thanks for watching part 1 of this series. Be sure to hit the notification icon so you know when part 2 comes out.